Heads of state like to talk about a dialogue between rich and poor nations. That may be their goal. But their speeches don't stop North-South economic relations from resembling a monologue. And as filmmakers, we discovered within a few days of leaving Quebec, it's a monologue for rich countries only. Heads of state in the South, however powerful they may be, have little to say in our financial dealings with them, which doesn't stop some of them from getting rich in the process.
Tonight, the President of the Republic of Haiti, Jean-Claude Duvalier, accompanied by his wife, Michelle Bennett, is attending a small gathering to celebrate his reconciliation with the press. A few weeks ago, the president imprisoned or exiled several journalists critical of his regime. Dictators, whether from the right or the left, react badly to criticism. President Duvalier leads the life of a millionaire. At his wedding, champagne and petit four were served in the gardens of his estate. The celebrations were estimated to have cost $5 million. Designated by his father, Jean-Claude Duvalier became, at age 18, president for life of the Republic. 10 years later, he's still calling the tune. There are very few ways of getting rich in a poor country. One of them consists of being friends with those in power. Heads of state in the South are often accused of self-serving economic management, having corrupt advisors, misappropriation of funds, and patronage. In Haiti, 50 extended families have concentrated in their hands close to half the country's wealth.
Obviously, if political corruption alone could account for poverty, several countries in the North would be underdeveloped. Underdevelopment is a relative notion that brings to mind hunger, sickness, overpopulation, and illiteracy. Haiti is a tragic case in this respect. We will use it as an example of North-South economic relations. In countries in the South, the gulf between rich and poor defies the imagination. Ruby is one of a dozen purebred horses in this stud farm. In countries in the North, a beautiful horse is a beautiful horse. In Haiti, it becomes a symbol of exploitation. This stable offers its horses facilities such as telephone, running water, and electricity, which 85% of Haitians don't have. But the rich in the South ease our guilty consciences. We make them scapegoats for all these evils. We can't forgive them for desiring in an impoverished country the same comforts that we possess.
sont dans le showroom de la Curaçao Trading et ils ne savent vous donner de la tête. Meubles de chambre à coucher, de salon ou de salle à manger, le choix est grand à la Curaçao Trading. Un choix infini d'articles ménagers pour la plus grande commodité de madame et tout pour sa beauté. Tout pour le confort et la détente de monsieur. Philips, Robin Hood, Sharp, Neki, Cetron, toute une panoplie de grandes marques. Philips sont en tête à la Curaçao Trading, rue Pavé ou Delmar.
In all the magazines, you'll find advertisements for every kind of luxury item. And just as you in the North develop a taste for these luxury items, well, so do people in the South. They have the same appetite for everything that's beautiful, that's expensive, that's luxurious.
But what kind of feelings towards the industrialized nations does that arouse in people here? Desire or aggressiveness?
Someone once said that unshared wealth is a form of aggression.
Coca-Cola.
Coca-Cola, je vous mélange tout ça, toi et moi. Coca-Cola, Coca-Cola, c'est aujourd'hui qu'il faut goûter la vie. C'est fait pour ça, Coca-Cola.
Parce que Coca-Cola,
c'est fait pour ça.
Every day, these fishermen drag the bottom of the sea with their nets. They aren't on vacation and aren't extras in a film.
Our leisure society hasn't touched them yet, but it won't be long. We have our eye on all this land. There are so many of us in the North who pay to escape winter that shorelines are divided bit by bit and bought up by speculators. The local people will be driven out so that we can play in the sand. That's development, progress.
It's said that tourism brings money into poor countries and promotes cultural exchanges. But tourism is an industry that benefits primarily airlines, companies that package tours, and owners of hotels like this Club Méditerranée. Minimal economic benefits and a few jobs as servants are all that's left over for the South. Natives have no place in our suntan paradise. Fishermen turn to selling paintings, and cultural exchange is limited to bargaining.
In Pétionville, on a hill overlooking the capital, one hotel, the El Rancho, drives its guests around in a Rolls-Royce. From their seat in a limousine, how can tourists know that this country is one of the 30 poorest countries in the world? Haiti lives off international welfare. Its government is being propped up financially. Its external debt exceeds its capacity to pay. A large proportion of educated Haitians have left the country, driven away by the regime or attracted to a better life. Haiti is bankrupt, but it's only one example of the drama that is being played out all over the South. The same can be said about Bangladesh, Ethiopia, Bolivia, and several dozen other countries. That's to say, for millions of women, men, and children.
We don't say it openly, but we think it all the same. Don't the poor really deserve what they get? After all, if they worked harder, they wouldn't live in such misery. How could they work harder? The women who come into town to sell their vegetables or their baskets have walked all night through the mountains. For working like slaves, these men earn less in one day than a worker in the north earns in 20 minutes. In fact, people in the south often work harder than people in rich countries. It's this capacity for work that attracts the north's manufacturers. Haiti is one of those countries with an abundant supply of cheap and adaptable labor, the country's greatest natural resource. And this resource is sold to factories and assembly lines.
The propriétaire de...
Speak English.
You don't speak French?
No.
You're the owner of the enterprise?
Yes.
What kind
Not
of...
the owner. I'm
the manager?
I'm the vice president of the parent organization.
What kind of
We
organization
manufacture
is that?
ladies' handbags.
Do you work only here in Haiti or in other
All over
countries?
the world.
All over the world.
Yes.
That's an American company?
Yes. Now, we're the largest manufacturer of ladies' handbags in the world. We have factories, domestic factories in the United States, factories in Hong Kong, Taiwan, South Korea, and the Philippines. This is our first venture here into the Caribbean.
What's the interest for you of working here in Haiti?
What is the interest of
Yes.
our working here in Haiti?
Yeah.
We've come for the good labor and the good workmanship.
You export to...
No, we're manufacturers in the United States. We manufacture our own product.
Here. Everything is done here? Or?
No. All the component parts originate in the United States. All we do is assemble.
Here
in Haiti, right.
Because of the labor force.
Yes, exactly.
It's not very expensive to do work here.
Yes, but we don't capitalize on that. The value of the product is passed on to the consumer.
What about your relations with the government?
Very
Good?
good.
Or?
Very good, no problem.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, nice talking to you.
Thank you, bye.
Bye.
In 1980, the minimum hourly wage was 92 cents in Taiwan, 22 cents in the Philippines, 26 cents in Brazil, and 33 cents an hour in Haiti. Poor countries fight over contracts from the multinationals. For Motorola, Seagrams, IBM, Sylvania, Xerox, and RCA, it's a buyer's market. We all profit from the industrialized country's position of strength, often in unexpected ways. Take, as an example, the baseball. In North America, it isn't unusual for a brawny player to earn in one season the annual salary of 1,000 Haitians. $200,000 to pitch, catch, or try and hit a ball. This same baseball, if examined closely, has stamped on it, irony of ironies, made in Haiti, and is for sale in Montreal in all good sports stores.
Ce format-là. La balle
Les balles de la
fabriquée
Ligue
en Haïti.
nationale.
Oui, ça c'est la balle officielle, c'est marqué ici. Officielle de la Ligue nationale, ça veut dire que les expos jouent avec ça. C'est exactement la même balle qui est utilisée. Il est marqué ici Haïti.
Et vous, où est-ce que vous les achetez?
Nous autres, on les achète de Toronto.
Qu'est-ce que ça vaut, une balle de baseball comme celle-là?
Une balle comme ça, on vend ça 7,50 $.
Et vous la payez? Est-ce que je peux vous demander ce que vous la payez?
Ah ben oui, il y a toujours un profit qui est permis. Ça nous permet de vivre à tout le monde. On paye ça 5 $. Fait un profit de 2,5 piastres de la balle. C'est une balle avec une marque de commerce Rawlings qui est utilisée par les deux ligues professionnelles majeures.
Et les jeunes veulent jouer avec la même balle que les professionnels?
Évidemment.
Toronto. We found a distributor for Rawlings baseballs in a warehouse belonging to a leisure products multinational, the Irwin Group. The man in charge is an American, a veteran of the Vietnam War, Mr. John Young.
Operations is the stamping of the balls, where we put the balls are completely made up, and we just put the National League stamps on it, the Rawlings stamp and the signature stamp on the ball. The balls have a core that is a cork and rubber center. Those centers are fabricated in the U.S. The wool is sent from the U.S. to Haiti, and the covers of the balls are stamped out and they're sent to Haiti.
What's the goal, the purpose of doing that in Haiti?
Well, basically two reasons. Number one, the labor and and overhead for that manufacturing process is less in Haiti than what it would be either in the U.S. or in Canada. Secondly, it's in the Rawlings plant. Rawlings owns the manufacturing operation in Haiti, so it keeps their operation. A lot of our ball gloves are manufactured in Korea. Our swim line are made in Japan or Malaysia or Hong Kong, depending on where the least cost of that product is, and the same goes for our toy line as well.
And always for the same reason, because the labor is cheaper in those countries.
Well, it's the least cost method, be it labor and overhead, or labor or a combination of both, plus your freight. You do an analysis to decide which is the least cost method, yes.
What's the price of a baseball?
Our selling price?
Yeah.
At the retail level, it differs from seller to seller, but approximately $10.95 to $11.95 at the retail on a per ball.
So the maximum retail price, $11.95. The wholesale price, $5. The amount paid to a worker, 15 cents per ball. In Haiti, 4,000 people work so that the North can play. This doesn't mean that our borders are wide open to all products from the South. We were able to visit the largest baseball factory in the world only after repeated requests to its owner and director, Mr. Robert Tippenhauer.
No, it's not that I don't want you to film here. I have nothing to hide. Work never hurt anybody. On the contrary. If you can show, what the Haitian labor force is capable of, then it'll be a pleasure to show you through my factory.
But what's been said in the past to upset you?
No, it's not that. It's just that the press generally treats Haiti badly.
How many employees do you have?
500.
How much do they earn a week?
Under the minimum wage law, as you know, they presently earn between $40 and $50 a week. All the American manufacturers are in Haiti now. All the ones that control the market for baseballs in the U.S. are in Haiti, so as to benefit from the fiscal advantages and from the labor force, which is well suited for this kind of work.
You're often criticized for profiting from the situation.
Well, what's meant by profiting? No, I'm asking you, what's meant by profiting? What do you mean to imply?
It's said that you make enormous sums of money off the workers' backs by profiting from the difference between the two standards of living, here and in North America, for example.
First of all, it's totally wrong to try and compare the standards of living in North America and in Haiti or other countries in the same financial state as Haiti. I think the comparison has no value. We live in an economic system based on profit, don't we? In Canada and the United States, people make profits, don't they? The figures may be different, but we respect the laws that have been drawn up that protect the labor force, and we make a normal profit. We give work to people who would otherwise have difficulty finding any. And I don't see why people should criticize. Because we're an integral part of the system. We aren't the communist system, we're the capitalist system. And the basis of the capitalist system is profit.
Filmez-nous, monsieur. Vous avez des enfants? Oui. Quatre enfants? Quatre enfants. Est-ce qu'ils vont à l'école?
Oui. Puis grand l'école. Puis petit l'école tout. Bien qu'ils vont à l'école.
Est-ce que les conditions de travail sont bonnes? Est-ce que les patrons sont gentils?
Oui. Parfois nous rencontrons le patron qui est très gentil, mais pas facile.
Les patrons sont américains? Tous les patrons américains?
Américains ou dominicains, français, parfois suisses aussi.
Les patrons de partout?
Parfois les Haïtiens aussi.
Il y a des Haïtiens aussi? Est-ce que qui travaille ici? Est-ce que vous cherchez tous du travail? Ou...
Oui.
Est-ce que vous pensez que c'est mieux à l'étranger?
Oui. À New York, c'est mieux?
C'est mieux?
Oui.
Vous avez des amis qui sont partis?
Oui, beaucoup.
A bowl of pork and rice, sprinkled with hot sauce, costs close to 2 hours' work. Inflation often affects workers in the South more than those in the North.
Needless to say, you won't see these women and men in the kind of restaurant where the prices on the menu are all too familiar.
Qu'est-ce qu'on mange?
Ça dépend. As-tu un hors d'œuvre?
Qu'est-ce qu'il y a?
Il y a un cocktail de crevettes, pâté maison, 3 $. Les crevettes, 3,50. Terrine de poulet aux herbes.
Qu'est-ce qu'il y a comme viande?
Viande. Escalope de veau, 8,95. Les prix ressemblent aux nôtres. Hein? Filet béarnaise, 8,50.
Filet de poisson?
Oui, oui. Queue de langouste, sauce meunière, 11 $, mais il faut attendre 20 minutes. Crevettes sautées au beurre d'escargot, 8,50. Poisson gros sel, ça, je ne sais pas ce que c'est.
Un poisson en sauce.
Lambi à la créole aussi, 7,25.
Est-ce qu'il y a du vin? Oui.
J'imagine. Il faudrait choisir avant. Hein? Rouge ou blanc. Wine list. Rouge ou blanc. Côte-du-Rhône, 12 $. Il y a Riesling, 15 $, 16 $. Chablis, 18 $. Ça va, non? On va prendre de la bière. C'est un peu cher.
C'est le même prix partout?
S'il vous plaît. Bon, on va commander. Alors, tu prends quoi?
We are rich, we are tourists, we are contractors, we are bankers. The South's bankers. In 1980, for example, the Royal Bank of Canada alone handled 60% of all banking transactions in Haiti. The Third World is an expanding market for financial institutions from the North. We are insatiable.
Bon, je suis géologue de formation.
I'm a geologist by training, and I represent the Penaroya company, which does prospecting and mining. We're a member of the Imetal group, which operates in 42 countries around the world. We only do prospecting and perhaps, if the occasion arises, mining operations.
And have you been here for many years?
It's my 8th year.
And what have you found in 8 years of prospecting in Haiti?
Well, lots of things, but nothing that can be exploited. Mostly we found a variety of metals that are too low grade to constitute a deposit.
What kind of deposit?
Specifically copper, lead, zinc, silver, and gold.
People have made a connection between France's decision to increase its aid to Haiti and your work in the mining sector by saying that if France has decided to triple its aid to Haiti, it's because mineral deposits have been found, that there's a cause and effect relationship. What's your reaction?
You're referring to that article in the Montreal paper La Presse, dated Tuesday, December 30th, 1980, with the headline, France triples aid to Duvalier regime. That's a political question concerning the French embassy much more than myself. I'm not at all competent to respond. But in it, I'm quite upset to see the poverty of a journalist who engages in gratuitous speculation when he says that Penaroya since 1970 has been engaged in prospecting or mining for gold, copper and nickel. That is completely false, and I'm surprised a journalist would permit himself to invent such speculations.
In fact, it's only the date that's wrong. You've been here for 7 or 8 years.
No, there's been absolutely no mining.
Non, mais l'article est tendancieux.
But the article is intentionally misleading. I'm not talking about the improved relations that may exist on the political level. It's none of my business. But on the technical level, I strongly deny it. There's nothing to it. But on top of that, the article seems to imply that Penaroya enjoys special privileges. That's completely untrue. Penaroya is one of the companies that, like Hennecote or Billiton, which is Shell's mining branch, has options they can take out at any time by applying to the Ministry of Mines, which controls all mining operations in Haiti. From reading the article, you get the impression that the French government, that we are French civil servants giving into political pressure in a technical area. That's not true. We are a multinational with all the negative aspects this implies for some people.
In a way, it's really the law of profit. If you don't find anything...
Absolutely, we aren't philanthropists, and we have discussed this with the ministries involved. If we don't find anything, we'll leave.
If we don't find anything, we'll leave. And when we do find ore, we'll mine it until there's nothing left. Then we'll leave. This truck belonging to the Reynolds Aluminum Company is making one of its last hauls of bauxite, a red earth from which aluminum is refined. The bauxite deposit has been exhausted. Reynolds is leaving. Haiti has nothing left to offer. It has given everything. Few countries can stand up to these giants. A multinational, with its know-how and its capital, crushes everything in its path. Reynolds alone has an annual budget of $4 billion. The Haitian government administers $400 million, a tenth of that.
But if the multinationals alone were to blame for underdevelopment, Quebec would have been reduced to poverty years ago. At Bécomo, on the north shore of the St. Lawrence River, Reynolds is exploiting Quebec's hydroelectric resources. This American multinational is the world's third largest producer of aluminum. So this is alumina, it's not bauxite.
Yes, that's alumina. Unfortunately, there are no ships at the dock today, but you can still see. It's a powder that looks a lot like flour. The powder is electrolyzed.
And it's made from bauxite?
It comes from bauxite.
And it arrives here already treated?
Yes, it's been refined.
Where is it treated?
First of all, I should say that in terms of large producers, bauxite comes mostly from Jamaica. We receive some from Africa, very recently from Brazil, and at present we're building a factory in Australia for refining bauxite.
You used to get some from Haiti, too.
Yes, up until this year we got some from Haiti, but now it's finished in Haiti.
When you say it's finished, you mean that at a certain point a country's bauxite runs out?
That's right.
And so Haiti is replaced by Australia?
That's right. The ore is exhausted at a certain point. It's replaced by ore from another country, from Australia. It's refined mainly in Texas, in Corpus Christi, Texas.
And aluminum is produced from alumina?
That's right. It takes about 2 tons of alumina to produce a ton of metal. Maybe I should have said at the beginning that it takes 4 tons of bauxite to make 2 tons of alumina.
How much does an ingot weigh?
These here weigh about 10,600 pounds each, but we make ingots weighing up to 35,000 pounds.
That means that pile of ingots is worth $30,000. There are 5 of them.
Yes, you could say that easily.
Est-ce que vous savez d'où ça vient, la bauxite que vous utilisez?
Non, justement, on aimerait bien ça savoir, mais on n'a jamais eu bien d'informations là-dessus. Je sais que ça arrive par bateau aussi au quai en bas.
Est-ce que vous en avez déjà demandé d'informations là-dessus?
C'est peut-être bien un manque de notre part aussi. On fait notre ouvrage ici, puis On sait que le matériel est là, on ne se pose pas la question, c'est tout le temps prêt. Il y a tout ce qu'il faut pour faire le métal.
Vous vous êtes jamais dit que si les pays producteurs de bauxite décidaient de plus en exporter, vous auriez des problèmes de travail?
Sûrement. Et d'ailleurs, à un moment donné, ils l'avaient pour un prix beaucoup moins qu'aujourd'hui. Puis là, les pays exportateurs ont décidé de l'augmenter.
Trouvez-vous ça normal qu'ils l'augmentent?
Bien sûr. C'est la richesse naturelle.
C'est officiel. Quand même, nos richesses naturelles, nous autres, sont exportées. Ils ne sont pas traités même ici, sur place.
S'ils décidaient, les gens du tiers-monde, de fermer le robinet, par exemple, de plus vous envoyer de bauxite, plus de Reynolds à Bécomo.
Oui, mais s'ils sont rien que ça pour avoir un revenu, ce serait pas intéressant pour eux de fermer le robinet.
Ils n'ont pas le choix. Sentez-vous de la solidarité avec les travailleurs des pays où on extrait la bauxite? Souvent, c'est des pays pauvres, les gens sont très mal payés. Est-ce que ça vous chicote, ça, ou si c'est le genre de choses auxquelles vous ne pensez pas trop?
Disons que ça nous passe par la tête de temps en temps. On sait qu'il y a des pays qui sont moins favorisés que d'autres. Mais qu'est-ce qu'on peut y faire? Je ne sais pas.
Vous ne pouvez pas penser à un grand syndicat représentant tous les travailleurs de la Reynolds, où qu'ils soient dans le monde, en Jamaïque, en Haïti, en Afrique, puis ceux du Québec, dans le même syndicat, qui négocieraient pour tout le monde, ça augmenterait leur salaire.
Mais c'est-tu des travailleurs de la Reynolds, ceux qui travaillent justement l'exploitation de la bauxite?
Bien, la Reynolds a des mines dans certains pays du tiers-monde. Ça me surprend que vous n'ayez pas pensé à tout ça.
Bien, déjà, on a déjà assez à se battre avec notre syndicat ici, là, on va déjà régler nos petits problèmes ici. Après, quand ça ira bien, on pourra redescendre la ligne.
Est-ce que vous pensez qu'il ne faudrait pas partager un peu avec les gens des pays pauvres, diminuer nos salaires pour leur en donner un peu plus, parce qu'ils crèvent de faim?
Quand on sait que ça va direct à eux autres, c'est correct. Mais je pense que ça ne se rend pas toujours. L'aide qu'on peut les apporter, ça ne se rend pas toujours.
Où est-ce que ça va?
Oh, je ne sais pas, par exemple.
Mais pourquoi vous dites ça, que ça ne se rend pas toujours?
Ben ça, on a entendu parler de ça. Hein? À la télévision, ils disent ça, des fois.
Who gets international aid? It seems that charity begins at home. Over half the foreign aid given to the Third World is spent in Canada. We can take as an example Lavalin Incorporated, an engineering company whose headquarters are located on Sherbrooke Street in Montreal. The company has been active abroad since 1967 on behalf of the Canadian International Development Agency, the World Bank, the United Nations, the Inter-American Development Bank, and private companies. 20 to 25% of Lavalin's operations are related to projects in third world countries. This represents, for Lavalin alone, $40 to $50 million in contracts annually. Engineering offices profit from foreign aid because when it comes to building a dam, a highway, or canals, they possess know-how rarely found in countries like Haiti. In addition, Canada, like certain other countries, requires that, in exchange for its financial assistance, contracts be awarded to Canadian companies such as Lavalin.
Monsieur Dufour, it's often said that in many countries, in third world countries, economic practices are rather strange, to such a degree that a law was passed in the United States to stop American companies from profiting from bribes when they, from giving bribes when they work in the third world or anywhere else. Do you experience this type of problem?
Well, in Canada and the United States, there are people who are honest and others who aren't honest. The same holds for other countries. But there are countries such as Saudi Arabia and the Gulf states where by law you have to have an agent. The agent isn't necessarily someone you pay to do nothing. An agent is someone who represents our company in the country, who will introduce our people, who will deal with the governments to find out who we should see about a given project. He's really someone who works for us. He's our local agent.
But if, let's say, in a hypothetical country, the rules of the game are that bribes are given, would your agent give out bribes?
Well, in that case, it would be up to the agent to decide.
But what happens in countries where people say the regime is corrupt and the leaders are getting rich, that sort of thing? Does it ever happen that you're asked for money?
Very rarely. I've never had a case of someone coming to me and saying, if you don't give me X amount of money, you won't get the contract. I've never had a case of that. You hear a lot of things, but when you get down to it, the world isn't as badly governed as people think. We're working at the present time in Nigeria, and nobody in Nigeria has ever asked us for anything. We work in every country in Africa, and things go through government ministries, through the chief engineer. The same thing here, you go through the chief engineer in public works. He asks for a proposal that he discusses with us. But a lot of people from Africa visit Canada. When that happens, of course, you take them out for dinner, you do what you would do for other Canadians. You want to do the right thing.
Competition in this area is intense. French, British, American, German, Japanese, and Dutch companies are all on the lookout for large-scale projects in countries in the south. A company like Lavalin and its subsidiaries represents 6,500 permanent jobs in Canada, two-thirds of which are in Quebec.
In fact, a project for a factory or a project for manufacturing can be developed in Montreal.
And according to the map over there, you have operations around the world.
We have several projects in Indonesia, as you can see. I think that in Indonesia we presently have about 40 people. We also have a permanent office in Nairobi, Kenya, which is responsible for East Africa, and to a lesser extent the Middle East, where we have a permanent representative who covers all this region. We have a permanent office in Cotonou.
In French-speaking Africa.
In French-speaking Africa, which will probably be moved to Lagos, Nigeria, in the near future. We have a permanent office, a Moroccan law firm in Casablanca, in which we have an interest of about 50% with a local company. We have a permanent office in Algiers, in Algeria. We have a permanent office in Paris that covers more or less all this region here. We've never had a permanent office in South America or Central America for the good reason that traditionally we've covered South America from Montreal. It's in the same time zone. Our people travel from here and come back. However, we now have plans to open an office in Caracas.
You have 3 or 4 projects going in Haiti.
Yes, we have a project to study a market, the Croix de Bossal market. It's a question of recommending improvements to the government which need to be made in order for the market to operate at North American standards.
But North American standards require North American technology. Is it an appropriate technology? The Croix de Bossal market. More than 50,000 people come here every day. The smell of sewers and refuse dominates. It is in markets such as this one that the demographic pressures at play in countries in the South can be measured. 15,000 vendors do business here. 1,000 live here the year round in deplorable sanitary conditions. We are right in the heart of the capital, a 10-minute walk from the presidential palace. There are so many people in this market, and these people are so poor, that the CIA has described it as a powder keg. The Croix de Bossal is, from the point of view of political stability, a dangerous and strategic location. That's all that was needed to convince the World Bank to finance operations to clean up and redevelop the market. A $10 million project to change the backdrop to these people's lives. Lavalin Incorporated of Montreal was awarded the contracts for technical studies.
Who gets international aid? There's no simple answer to this question. Near the market along the sea, the Haitian government is constructing a boulevard to ease traffic congestion in the city center. It's true that this road will benefit everyone. But the money the Inter-American Development Bank provided the Haitian government will profit the construction company most of all. But who does that company belong to? According to information we'd been given, it was a Haitian company, a factor that might have counted in its favor in landing the contract. However, at the head office, we were surprised to learn that 55% of Marca Company was owned by a Haitian who had left the country. The remaining 45% was owned by a Canadian company. Its garage and offices were in fact managed by the two representatives of the shareholders in Quebec. In the shadow of St. Joseph's Oratory, not far from our own offices, we found the people who control Marca. It was a totally Canadian-owned company, Sintra Incorporated of Montreal. Using plans developed by a company bought by Lavalin, Sintra had constructed 100 kilometers of highway leading to the beaches on the southern coast of the island. The new highway serves to bring people and produce into the capital and occasionally to do one's jogging. The north has to keep in shape.
But it's not only private enterprise that seeks out new territories. The South is also a market for our state-owned companies. Hydro-Quebec International got its first important contract as consultant to the Haitian Electric Company.
Since it was the French who were advisors here before you, doesn't that mean that development will be carried out along Western lines?
That's for the Haitians to choose. Our role is simply to be as helpful as possible in reducing production and distribution costs. But we certainly can't impose a style of development on them. That's up to them to decide.
But don't you think that they have the impression that our system is probably the best?
We're the ones who always say it's the best, so they believe us. In Quebec, I don't know if you remember, but we said exactly the same thing. But there's no direct relation, as far as I know, between electricity and development. It may be an inconvenience not to have any, but it's not necessarily an advantage to have it.
Isn't there a certain amount of competition among countries to sell their technology in southern markets?
Yes, of course. Anyway, the aim of all these foreign aid systems is in the first place to help the country. Not the developing country, but the developed country looking to sell its material. It's a form of subsidy to industry, that country's industry, in fact.
So aid benefits the donor country first.
Well, we shouldn't exaggerate. Obviously, it benefits industries in the donor country. The donor country gives the money away, so it doesn't profit from it directly. But the aid profits industries or individuals or companies.
A high-voltage loop is being planned, financed by Canada at a cost of $17 million. Obviously, a Canadian company will look after its installation. In the past, we preached industrialization. Today, we claim to be just as concerned with agricultural development. Agronomists from Laval University in Quebec City are cooperating with the Haitian School of Agriculture. Canada has undertaken the development of an entire region. Mr. Tai, a former director of agriculture in South Vietnam, has become a Canadian civil servant in charge of reforestation.
Il y a un problème d'érosion énorme ici, qui est un problème encore là commun à bien des pays du tiers-monde.
Le déboisement, ça provoque premièrement d'abord l'érosion, parce que une fois que la couverture arborescente est finie, les gouttes de pluie tombent et donc il n'y a pas de protection contre les gouttes de pluie. Les gouttes de pluie tombent directement sur la couche arable. Et finalement, vous avez des érosions par rigole. Et puis finalement, toute la terre arable est perdue. Et elle est amenée par la rivière et puis elle va jusqu'à la mer. Quoi. Donc c'est pour ça qu'il faut reboiser toute la zone.
One of Canadian Foreign Aid's largest undertakings in Haiti has been the construction of this Road of the Palms through the mountains. This dirt road will make it possible to transport produce that would otherwise have spoiled before it could reach urban markets. However, the road may be a mixed blessing, as it will allow speculators from the capital to get their hands on fertile land, which has been inaccessible up till now.
The North often ends up in embarrassing situations as a result of its foreign aid. No one will deny that part of the 21 million Canadian dollars spent on the region went to enrich friends of the regime. Canada paid for the construction of this highway, so it was inevitable that our representatives would be present at the inauguration, protected by the Tonton Macoute. Canada, unable to exercise sufficient control over the money it provides, has decided to review its aid to this authoritarian regime.
Je déclare la route des Palmes officiellement inaugurée pour le développement de la région.
Tout ce qu'on nous, c'est dans nos grands-mères de la Ligue. À nous la prière. Bon Dieu qui gagne tout pouvoir et qui l'a pour tout temps. Tout ça ou t'es fait, ni pour propre gloire pas, ni pour service des hommes. T'en prie, bénis route les pales si là, bénis tout le monde, ni tous les outils qui te travaillent, fait peut-être bon cœur, voyager au souillot, de quoi pour tandis que petit touillot à déplacer, puis vite, avec puis à l'aise, à l'équilé sur route ça. Ils ont toujours songé pour marcher tout dans le chemin commandement où ils ont briver la jouissance ce ciel-là. Pas pouvoir Jésus-Christ, grand maître nous. Amen. Tout le monde, bonne chance avec la route.
But who, from the North or the South, should control international aid? In Haiti, there are numerous projects for agricultural development. Reasons for providing aid vary from one country to another. The Americans and West Germans want to ensure political stability in the Caribbean, since Cuba is right next door. Israel and Taiwan, isolated at the United Nations, need the Republic of Haiti's vote. There's something here for everyone. Each country has its specialties. The nationalist Chinese, for example, are here to demonstrate various ways of increasing rice production. That's what a foreign aid official was trying to explain when we were unexpectedly interrupted.
About 6 tons here, but outside, the farmers land only 2 tons per hectare. Il y a un petit problème, sauf que la direction générale vous dit que vous devrez avoir une autorisation de sa part pour faire des photos ici.
Et pourquoi?
Je ne sais pas.
Ah, il faut aller à Port-au-Prince chercher l'autorisation avant de filmer par ici.
Filmer par ici, oui, filmer toute la vallée comme vous voulez.
Ah. Bon. Et même pour parler avec monsieur?
Oui, oui.
Why should we be forbidden to film these rice paddies? Because censorship is always absurd, and because minor functionaries often take themselves for despots. But, as usually required by this type of regime, we had an official permit signed by the Minister of Information.
This authorization should have permitted us to interview anyone we wanted. It's true that no one kept an eye on us, but we quickly discovered that many Haitians and foreigners wouldn't talk in front of the camera.
Elle est occupée. À quelle heure est-ce que je pourrais rappeler pour lui parler? Dans 10... Ben, écoutez, on l'a vu dans l'avion et je suis journaliste. Bon.
Why this unwillingness? In certain cases, for fear of being associated with any criticism of the regime. In others, so as not to reveal embarrassing privileges. For instance, these scenes of the Hamco company were filmed without permission. The local representatives of Hamco, the Haitian American meat products company, whose owners are in Chicago, had forbidden us to film their installations. What did they have to hide? That they're taking meat from the mouths of the undernourished. People in poor countries obviously can't match the prices we pay for their animals. So Hamco buys all the animals it can get from the peasants. The men in Chicago make them an offer they can't refuse. So all this meat from Haiti is butchered, frozen, and ends up in supermarkets in the north.
Meat, like bauxite and labor, is exchanged for dollars. The money will be used to pay the oil bill, purchase luxury goods, and buy the North seconds.
Pour chaque dollar d'achat, Kentucky vous donne un point cadeau.
Bon pour le Kentucky. Un poulet succulent, et puis un bon cadeau mettre sous le bord.
Et songez bien, pour chaque dollar d'achat, Kentucky bat New point cadeau.
In the heart of Port-au-Prince, these workers are sorting coffee beans meant for export. They earn 25 cents an hour. That's less than what 1 cup of coffee costs in a restaurant in Quebec. The poor always get poorer. Every year we increase the price of the goods we sell to them. But we refuse to do the same when it comes to buying their sugar, bananas, or coffee. A fall in prices at the New York Coffee and Sugar Exchange means disaster for the South. And local intermediaries grab up whatever profits are left over.
But urban poverty isn't the worst. There's the poverty we can't change at all, affecting 80% of the country's inhabitants, rural poverty. In the north, we can expect our income to increase. The poor have to accept their fate. When there's nothing more to life than scrounging for twigs with which to make a poor quality charcoal day after day until there aren't any twigs left, how can one ever hope to escape? There are hundreds of millions of them in Asia, in Africa, and in Latin America, too numerous for the sterile land they strip bare. But why don't they revolt? Hunger, illness, social structures, and armed repression often hold them back. And resignation is one of the basic teachings of the world's principal religions. Do the children of the third world have a future? Certainly not, if the rich countries continue their monologue. A monologue from which this film, made in the North, could not escape.
Bon, vous avez le drapeau, là, nous allons chanter l'hymne national comme quoi que nous bien. Nous aimons patrie, nous. Pas vrai? Nous patriotiques, vrai, tout bon vrai. Nous contents, pays nous belles. Pas vrai? Nos belles pays. Comment les pays nous? Haïti. Mais comment les nous encore parce que belle? La perle des Antilles, le pays du soleil. Bon, alors pour les aïeux, pour la patrie, ou bien pour le drapeau, pour la patrie, mourir est beau. Pour le drapeau, pour la patrie, mourir est beau, mourir est beau. Notre passé nous crie, et la main guerrie. Mourir est beau, pour le drapeau, pour la patrie. Mourir, mourir, mourir est beau, pour le drapeau, pour la patrie.